You're listening to Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the official podcast of Lingerie Fighting Championships. And now, here's your host, Michael Larkin.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the official LFC Lingerie Fighting Championships podcast. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me today, and it's been a while, it is great to see this lovely face, LFC fan, model, and just an all-around awesome human being, my friend, Miss Stephanie Ferreira. How are you, Steph?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I am good. A lot has been going on in both our respective worlds, whether it be in LFC land and podcast world. And you've been doing your thing as far as your journey into some fashion shows, to some modeling, hell, even some singing, man. You have been doing the damn thing.
I've been doing a lot of the things. I feel like I have my hand in every single pot.
I think that's the best part of it, though. I think when you think about life, and we've always talked about this, not just diversity, but variety, not only is the spice of life. That's how you have to really look at it. Like, just dip your toe into everything. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people always want to be set to like here, but it's like, no, if I could do this, it's more adaptation. It's more learning. It's more experience at the end of the day, you know?
Yes, 100%. I'm still not into the fighting, but that may change.
All right.
Because I am looking into getting back into the acting with stunt work because I'm a little bit trained with that, but I'm thinking about getting into the lingerie fighting and championship.
Oh, well, I hope to see you here very, very soon. I think the way you style and profile with your aesthetics from the external side of things, especially with how you rock it, man, boom, and just showing your grappling skills. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see you throw some punches, get into a scrap, if you will. I think you do that.
I've gotten into a few. I mean, I can square up. I can do, a little bit of an uppercut. That's my favorite. But it's hard because I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover, first off. But I love LFC. Like, you know me, you know that I have my favorites. I haven't been watching as much as I should. And in terms of the fighting, I know it's a lot of discipline. And if you were to look at my table, obviously we're not, represented by like twistlers and, got closets. So I might be up for a little bit more of a challenge with that than anything.
Well, I look at it like this, man. I think from the fighting and the grappling side of things, it's all about the combative nature, really like applying the craft, so to speak, because it's an art form. Like with life, anything is an art form. You're just applying your craft in amazing fashion. I look at it like this, man. It goes into it. I mean, with your Twizzlers and whatnot. But I think once you get into the right frame of mind and you do the damn thing, I think you actually do very well. I think you be putting your hair up and square up, if you will, as they say. I think once you learn some more holds and get into it, I think you do very well.
I appreciate that so much, but it's also finding the right team.
Yeah.
Because something about any industry that I've learned, whether it was when I was writing for Muscle Sport or, I mean, that was an eternity ago, it feels like, or even getting into the modeling world, you need a team, whether it's family supporting you, friends, even strangers, passersby, people who are into the same thing that you are. It's just finding the right people is where I need to find the right avenue, because I don't want to just bulk up, put on muscle, remain lean, but at the same time, the fighting abilities isn't what Lingerie FC is looking for. Maybe it's a little bit more UFC. Maybe it's a little bit more animated like WWE. Because I mean, I grew up being a Hulk Hogan fan, and we all know the story back then about when he lost his championship and the scandal and the controversy. I just want to be able to explore what it's like to be a fighter. That way I can say, I've tried that, I've done this. And if I were to go far with it, it becomes an accomplishment that I can say, holy crap, I started off with zero ambition. I started off as a fan when I stumbled across it. I met wonderful folks like you at LFC. And honestly, you have changed the way for me as well. Because not only through LFC and talking through the podcast and talking about, the fights, talking about these incredible women who are so multifaceted, that, you look at them and you're like, oh, she's a lingerie fighting champion. What does that entail? It means a whole lot of work and busting their butts to get to where they are, and to be able to hold a championship title like one of them one day. Oh,
Yeah, I got to say this. First of all, I appreciate your sentiments. That really touches my heart. Thank you very much. And I will say this, Hulkamaniac over here saying your vitamins, taking your prayers, eating your vitamins, training, doing the whole nine over here, flexing the 24-inch pythons. Okay, all right, now I see where you're coming from. But I look at it like this too as well. I mean, we have our current LFC champion now, Bella Inc., who has been in LFC since her inception in 2019. I look at it like this, man. It's one of those things where you want to be like a Bella Inc. or a Jolene the Valkyrie Hex, who is the LFC European champion, one of the OGs, the GOATs of LFC. I look at it like this. I think what goes into it, like you talk about, not just the fighting aspect, we always talk about the subtleties, intricacies, and nuances that go into anything, especially acting or anything in that vast regard. You have to have the right entrance from when you go out there to make in that moment. I think at the end of the day, man, there's so many things that a lot of people don't even realize from the moment you walk through that curtain, and especially what equated to fashion, when you go onto that runway, that all eyes are on you, to quote the great Tupac Shakur, as his legendary album, All Eyes Are On You. And it's really just the show starts there, and boom, it's an overall experience, man. It's the representation of your presentation.
It's one of the most incredible feelings when, for myself, I mean, I've walked in New York Fashion Week, I've walked in LA Fashion Week, I've walked here in Toronto for various types of shows, I've done Swim Week. I was actually looking into doing my first bikini competition this year. It just didn't work out. But a lot of the times I find that it's no longer about being a product. Now it's about being an individual. They want you to be someone who supports them as well, which has become something that, if you think about it, it really gets your mind thinking. Because if I'm, like I said, I love lingerie fighting championship. Like it, I've told you for years that like I look up to these ladies, and I think that they're brave, they're courageous, and they're also different. They bring something so different to the table. Then I look at the modeling world. The modeling world is not for the faint of heart. Just like fighting championship, whether it's any type of league. I mean, just thinking about the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul situation, a lot of attention goes sometimes to the wrong type of detail.
Right.
But a lot of the times when we're doing runway, when we're making an entrance, whether it's through lingerie fighting championship, when you're being introduced as an individual, as opposed to, the company, whether it's like LFC or WWE, UFC, whichever one, or even a brand, let's say it's Nike, Groove Gates, whatever the case may be, they're no longer saying that it's the company name. Now it's the individuals that are making that company. Because when you put on a t-shirt, you walk around with your cell phone, you are essentially a walking billboard. You are that advertisement. You are what the reality is versus the expectation. So when I hit the runway, it feels so different because half the time I'm like, don't trip, don't stumble, don't fall, don't fail. But that becomes more of an unhealthy obsession more than anything else. It becomes, oh, what happens if I fall? So many people are going to see this. It's going to go viral. I'm going to look ridiculous. I'm going to embarrass, the hair, the makeup team. But they also tell you if you fall, make it look like that's what you intended to do. I really don't want to look like I purposefully failed. I did it on purpose by, stumbling, or I lost my shoe, whatever the case may be. You can call me Cinderella. But a lot of the time it's that discipline. We're thinking about it. What is my end goal? My goal is to simply walk from the beginning. Here's my grand entrance. Everybody look at me. My name is Stephanie. Whether you look at me as Leaf Girl, Dolce Steph, Stephanie, whatever you want to call me. And I'm essentially my own entity. I am this person. I'm this goddess. But people will realize whether I'm actually matching that energy. Because if you feel like shit, people are going to know. When Mike Tyson was in that boxing ring, he looked like he wasn't supposed to be there. He looked so out of his element. And a lot of the times with lingerie fighting too, you can look at the fighters when they're not feeling it, whether they're tired, they're sore, there's an injury that they're trying to get through, you can see it. But the determination one of my biggest questions I always ask myself is, why do we never address how hard they're thinking about trying to get through it, just to say, I went through it. I didn't give up on myself. I'm in so much pain. I've got voices in my head. How do I get through this? But I'm going to get through this regardless.
I think what I love about your attitude too, and here's why I also attest this. First of all, this one bringing up Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, and Mikey Tyson's butt just appearing right before that. My goodness gracious! But I look at it from a stance too as well. The comedic aspect of that aside, Mike Tyson threw like 97 punches and he connected with like 18 of them. You know what I'm saying? Like that first round, bop, 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 he was great. Then towards the end, I mean, he was there, but I mean, it was what it was. I mean, I look at it like this. When you talk about going from the runway, your mission from here to there, I look at it like this. A lot of people, like you mentioned, don't take into account of like just, the stress and everything that goes into it. And even like you mentioned, LFC, Carmen Valentina is a perfect example. I love Carmen Valentina. She just fought against Tomiko. I was there ring announcing her bout. By the time we got to the second round, you could tell like Carmen was very gassed against Tomiko because Tomiko's a spitfire and Carmen in her own right, very size and very statuesque. But you could tell the way the fight, the direction and the trajectory was going. And I think with you and the trajectory really showcasing your confidence, and this is what I admire about you, Miss Stephanie Ferreira, is the fact that you really go into it. And I love the fact that you get to really see your confidence. And mind you, you've come a long way in your own right. But when I see you on that runway, man, you do the damn thing. It's poise, it's elegance, and I love it. There's a lot that goes into it. But I think in your state of mind, you have the right discipline, the attitude, and that goes a lot with the decorum factor, to use another word that begins with the decorum factor that goes into your performance. And I really, truly admire that.
Thank you so much. It's hard because we are our own worst critic. A
Right.
lot of the time we wake up in the morning and we're like, oh, I'm going to wake up today. I have work to do. I'm going to take my dog for a walk, whatever the case may be. A lot of the time, there's a lot of factors that I look at. There are a lot of times that I'm not the most confident. I don't wake up with this toxic Beyonce thing where I'm like, oh, I woke up this way. I feel so good. No, there are moments where I feel like shit. There are times where I'm so overwhelmed that I want to eat myself stupid with junk food. But there's also the unhealthy steps that I take where I'm too obsessed with being confident, where, I kind of have that attitude and then suddenly I don't have that attitude. So for me, a lot of the time, the way I'm looking at things now, I'm aging, I'm getting older. And a lot of the times people say, once a woman hits 40, TikTok, time is up. Your opportunities are gone. And a lot of the times we have battles within, just like the fighters do. We fight ourselves internally. We can't necessarily compartmentalize where we just put everything inside of a box and we become dismissive of it and we don't think twice about it. There are times it becomes an unhealthy thought and we're constantly thinking about it. Recently, I had a little bit of a hard time because I learned I wasn't welcome to do a runway show. And to hear that someone had told my fashion designer that there was a complaint about me, but they wouldn't disclose what it was. And then I got wind of it and I asked them, can you please tell me, is it something I need to worry about? Is it a civil situation? Could it possibly be a criminal situation? Because my mind looks for the worst, just like when I'm critiquing myself. We always think the absolute worst. And the reason why we do is our defense mechanism. Just because someone's going to swing with their right, you're going to want to bob away because you don't want to get hit. You don't want to have to deal with being hit. You don't want to lose a point because they squared you up and they scored that point. They nailed you in the face. For me, it's all about the attitude. But as I'm getting older, there's no wisdom to be shared other than being human, having conversation, but talking to yourself through everything. Every negative aspect, whether it's a loss, you weren't selected, the fight didn't go your way. It's important that we get up and we just keep going with it. And with my confidence, like I said, when I found out I wasn't welcome to the show, I spiraled for 2 weeks. And you begin to think things and you start doing the pros, cons, what's the good, what's the bad, this is the ugly, almost like Clint Eastwood. And then there are times where you have to say specifically to yourself, maybe it's a collapse. Maybe this isn't for me. But what good is it if I just give up?
Right.
There's no good that comes out of giving up. And I look at our parents, I look at my dad. My dad has suffered 2 heart attacks in 12 years. He suffered a stroke, but the man got up, he's walking, he's independent, he makes food for himself. And I think to myself, if I were to give up, if something like that to happen to me, I would not be here today. But what gets people picked up, it's the inspiration, it's the community around. Just like for me, when I see an LFC fighter, not only is she glancing at the fans that are cheering her on, she sees the people that are saying, boo, like, we didn't want you to win because we like this person more. It's not necessarily about that fighter that they didn't want them to win. It's not necessarily about that model like myself where they didn't want me to be there. They see it as an obstacle, and the easiest way is to just give up, not deal with it. But at the same time, I'm going to go the opposite course. I'm going to kind of keep pushing, get the ball rolling, because if this is my boxing match, if this is where I have to be in the ring, okay, that opponent doesn't want to face me, that's fine. But if I want to continue fighting for myself, I have to stay in that ring, whether I'm fighting myself or I have to fight the next challenger.
I have to say this, and you're pulling on my heartstrings here because I can also equate with you on this right here. So I'll put it to you like this: with what I do with my line of work, I've had those moments as well where there were people that did not want to work with me because, oh my God, you're interviewing people in lingerie and whatnot. And I'm like, so I also too have had that with the pros and cons. The pros, I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm building a community. I'm working with amazing people. It's all about who you surround yourself with. And then you have the cons over here where it's like, okay, some people may not like what you're doing, and that can maybe like do something to your psyche and what have you. But I also have to look at it like this. 2021 was a very tough year for myself. It was really, really, to be honest with you, it was, to put it in the bluntest of terms, it was kind of shitty. It was pretty shitty. My mom was diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer, and it was rough, like the whole 2021 to 2022. But I said to myself, if my mother can go through all of this surgery and now she's cancer free, if she could go through chemo, if she could go through this surgery, then she didn't give up. So why should I give up? So I look at it from a stance like this. We are who we are. We are who we surround ourselves with, but we always have that beneficial factor. We always have that come up that brings us up. And I think the spirit and the love and everything that we have around us really elevates us to the highest of highs and really, diversifies and really just kind of dissipates the lowest of lows. And I think with that in particular, I think with what you're doing now, what you also have to learn too is not only the fact that everybody has a place in life, but also at the end of the day, it's all about how you inspire, you encourage, and also not only that, but the effect that you have on people in life. And I think the effect of what you're doing really has a lot that goes into it. So I really do admire just the fact that I want to apply my craft, I want to do my art, and let's just do what we're doing, because at the end of the day, we all got to keep on keeping on,
Absolutely. With me, I've kind of taken a break in terms of focusing on modeling, just because I was somewhat getting bored with it. There are times, pose, lights, camera, action, flick, 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 click, 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 click. You're doing great. But I started to notice a lot this past year. After I went to LA, I came back to Toronto. I was working for a company. I was a closing manager at a local restaurant. And on my 5th shift, a man walked into our restaurant and he pulled a knife on another patron. And as the acting manager, I was, trying to get the guy out. I had plenty of women, especially our servers, that I was responsible for, and the patrons, their safety. And nobody was harmed other than the guy getting shoved to the ground, the knife going flying underneath my bar where I kicked it so it stayed there. I grabbed the guy by the shoulders and I kicked him out. And it sent me into a spiral where I've been home for almost a whole year before I was brave enough to face going back to work. And, little modeling gigs here and there helped, especially with supplementing some income. But it really gave me a better understanding of what it is to learn the craft of fighting, whether it's self-defense, just to protect yourself, whether you need to, do a quick, defend yourself if you have to, and run, book it, get to the police if you have to, get to safety, whatever the case may be. And a lot of the times I look back in my modeling career where people will say to me, you're just walking around in your bra and panties and you're calling it art. I've learned recently that a lot of the lingerie fighting champions and these fighters, they get a lot of flack because of the lingerie. And, that's not your typical style of dress. However, a lot of people don't understand underwear is meant to actually protect us. It is actually meant to move with us with fluidity. That way, if, when you're sweating, it's being absorbed, whatever the case may be. So within that year that I was home, I learned a lot of the negativity, what people were saying, whether, I was hopping on some old podcast and I would look through the comments and there would always be like this ridiculous comment about these beautiful women who are being sexualized because of the lingerie. And half the time I wanted to get into the fighting match for them because it's like, who's going to educate this individual about this way of thinking? Just because I'm wearing a bra and panty, if I'm in a bikini, does not mean the intention is to sexualize, take advantage, and make extremely vulnerable of. Because let's face it, we can be vulnerable wearing a t-shirt, a hoodie, a jacket, whatever the case may be. And like I said, I'm a lover. I am not a fighter by any means. When a lot of stuff started to happen, I start to see the comments and start to play with my mind. I had to do something with my hands. So I started to create. And I became a fashion designer with Antonella Florals, which is my new company. And I'm also, I'm the face of my own company and I've got brand ambassadors now. We recently did a fashion show for Sick Kids Hospital here in Toronto, where we helped raise money for children with congestive heart problems, as well as children with mental health problems. So what I've created is diamond art, which, I've done superheroes and they are attached to jerseys because I'm a huge hockey fan. Maybe one day I'll create my own lingerie line where, hopefully if I can, and I'd have to get absolute permission first to actually do the fighters. I would actually love to have these girls commemorated as diamond art and put on shirts. So that is actually what I'm planning on as my next move. So I just told you everything.
No, I'm glad that you did. I also look at it like this. You're very multifaceted, as are these amazing ladies of lingerie fighting championships. I think that's great. Not only the fact that you help great causes like congestive heart failure and mental health, both are very important, not only in today's day and age, but just in societies in general. I think, again, the moves that you're taking not only are very good, but also at the end, we talk about style and aesthetic. That helps and really goes a long way. And I mean, I hear you about negative comments. People will say everything about it. I think you and I actually touched upon this the last podcast. There was an outlet when they were talking about RT Sport, where they were talking about exploitation or entertainment when it came to this very brand. And I'm like, if you really look at it, you could really go after like the lingerie football league because it's hot women in lingerie, but they're actually playing the sport of football. It's an entertainment. Like, it's badass women playing a sport, but they're in the lingerie. It's like anything, but the only difference is in lingerie, they always really definitively go by that one word. And I look at it with your art too. I look at it from a stance too as well. From where you are and who you are, I think from the beauty side of things, we look at it internally, we look at it externally. But I think at the end of the day, from the experience that you've been in, from the fighting and the gentleman with the knife, you have so many experiences that bring you to where you need to be. And I think for you, not only are you learning, are you adapting, you grow. And I can tell just because not only you're my friend, number one, but number two, you're the bomb.com. We'll put that into the forefront. But I look at it like this, man. It's just you just have the things right here. It is everything that's gotten to your trajectory. And I don't mean to make it very spiritual, but I will. I think God has a plan for all of us, number one. And number two, you're counting your blessings, and the blessings have led to you to where you are. And that's the main thing right there.
Counting the blessings are almost as important as counting my losses, counting what wasn't for me, counting every negative. I try not to dwell on the negative because then it just eats at our souls. It eats us alive and it's not healthy. And then it takes us a really long time to get out of it. With the beauty industry, it's so focused on beauty and being beautiful and being aesthetically pleasing that a lot of the time it is just plain rotten. It is not fun. There's abuse, there's misunderstandings, there's a lot of negativity, and it's generational. It's passed on from generation to generation. And I kind of laugh at it a lot of the times because if I look at half of my messages, I'm the mother of the group, and I kind of sit there and go, wait a second, I don't know if they're saying it almost like it's wisdom, or if it's something where I see the signs of, let's not go down this avenue, but why don't we go here instead? This is more fitting. I'm not saying, oh, there's an obstacle, don't go that way. No, no, no. If there's an obstacle, you're going to face it head on. Like, just get through it if you need to. But it's also about finding your voice. Just like I feel these incredible fighters, these incredible women, they are using their voices. They're doing it with their hands. They're doing it with their legs, their feet, when they're kicking, punching, jabbing, sparring, whatever the case may be. And I think it's so incredible when I look at these women and they're completely empowered. That's why when I hear the word exploitation, it bothers me, because we are dehumanizing women when we say, yeah, look at this, they're exploiting the women. No, these women are given a stage to show off their craft, their talent, their abilities, their capabilities. And at the same time, we've seen the strain, the pain. Not that I'm a rapper, but we see a lot of what they put into it. Sorry, I made you giggle.
No, I have the just like Steffi Ferreira in the house, man. I got rapping right now. All you need is a grill. You're in the mix, man.
Oh no, girls, no. Let's not do that. First of all, I wouldn't even know how to talk through it. But I think with Lingerie Fighting Championship, I look at these women and they are empowering each other. They are doing what a lot of women, men, do not have the courage to do. Like I said, the amount of training that they do, the hours that they are training, whether they're in the gym, it's not just lifting weights and, this is how much muscle I put on today. No, it's the discipline. It's how much force are they putting into it. If they're experiencing something such as, arthritis, which has become so common, it doesn't discriminate against age. It doesn't discriminate about sex. When these women are going through these obstacles, whether they pull a muscle or they tear a ligament, if they broke a bone, we don't often see that. They're often suffering in silence. They're going through physio. They're going through all kinds of therapy. And a lot of the time, if a doctor tells them, no, you can't fight anymore, these women have something that they need to fall back on. But for a lot of them, if they feel like, well, I don't want to fall on something else. I want the fighting championship. I want to work for it. That's what I'm working for. And if it takes me 5, 10, 15, 20 years, all the more power to them, because that just shows how much they're putting work into it. And I think that we need to applaud that. We need to empower these women more because of how much work they put into it, determination and perseverance that they get through.
I like your style, and I will put it to you like this, and here's why I love why you bring this up. Not only do you see it and I see it, but I think a lot of people see it with these ladies. They not only believe in the brand, but also, number two, I look at it from a stance like this. A lot of these girls have been in domestic relationships and domestic violence cases, and this has brought them a lot of strength and courage to come out and do the damn thing and empower themselves. But I mean, like you mentioned, like going through everything, like I had Chris Blackwell on, one of the OGs of LFC. She's talked about back in the day being stalked in her hometown because she did an amazing fight with Chloe Cameron, but people were just so much of a fan of hers. Like they wanted to, she had an experience where she worked at a bar and people were like following her, which was not okay. So you have that stigma of it, but also at the same time too, there's notoriety, there's stuff that comes with the territory, but also at the same time too, we have a lot of women that just want to do this and they want to stick to it. And that's why I love each and every one of these ladies. They're so unique. And that brings us to people as a whole. I mean, everybody's unique. Everybody has their preference. Everybody likes this. Everybody has their pros and their cons. But I think at the end of the day, not only if you stick to it, if you stick to this brand or you stick to anything, and also I'll equate this to you, when you stick to what you want to do, what you're designing with your fashion or whatever you want to do, you go 100% into it. You go balls to the wall. You go full throttle, if you will. You grab it by the throat, your neck, dare I say, you choke them out like our many LFC ladies do. You choke the sumbitch out. But at the end of the day, it's one of the things that I also admire too, and I hate the term exploitation as anyone. You have to look at the entertainment value of it, the art of it, and really have to look at it through the right lens, the right visual lens. It's like when you look at a painting and you just see it like this, but are you really looking at it? Are you really visualizing something? And I think people really need to visualize instead of just, making either an automatic assumption, or number two, really look deep inside yourself and look deep at what you're looking at. Because if you really open your horizons, you expand your horizons, and you really have a better understanding, that goes a whirlwind, and that goes so much to how you view things in life and where your standpoint and your viewpoints are going to be.
It's so important that we do, because a lot of the time, let's think about something. If you go to a store, like as an example, whether it's like a dollar store, how many times do you remember the cashier if it's the same person? Right? A lot of the time, if it's not for somebody, they take off. They won't even give it a second thought. They won't go through training. They're not going to put up with it. They're just going to look at it and be like, okay, I pushed the button. This isn't for me. I'm done. Sayonara. They become forgettable. Nobody remembers them. But when I think of LFC, I think of the women who are the most memorable, like Miss Jolene Hex. You know how I feel about her. Tamiko. Yep. I'm obsessed with these ladies because I look at them, and number one, when you first said that they said hi and they mentioned me, I was like, oh my God, fangirling as if it was my favorite actor walked through the door. There is such an incredible power to these ladies that they are so hard to forget. And it's not about the outfit that they were wearing, but rather who they are out of the ring and who they are once they step into the ring. Because it's almost like when they say you can grow up to be whoever you want to be. Well, 1 minute, I want to be pleasant. I want to be, hello, how are you? Let's have a conversation. Let's get to know each other. Let's talk about things that are very difficult to talk about. But when I'm in the ring, I've got a job to do. I have to put on a show. But there's also my goal in this as I put on a show. For you, it's entertainment. For me, it's work. And it's just like acting. For me, whether I'm acting, modeling, it's a job. If they're paying me, okay, for this, you're going to be dramatic. Oh, okay. But if I'm not 100% invested, you're going to see it. Okay, so here's a fighter, no training. They don't know how to spar, knocked down in the first round. How do they become memorable? They didn't put any effort in. Who wants to be remembered as that? Not me.
No, I'm right there with you. We've seen a lot of LFC where we've only had a couple seconds. Like we just had a Ziva Faye against Ruby the Booty Vuitton. Booty, rocking everywhere. Yang twin style. Beautiful young lady, but the fight was only 40-some seconds, and then she got choked out immediately. Boom, and that was it. I mean, she came in, she had a nice little one sequence, and then boom. But I look at it from a stance too as well. The right training and the right acumen really goes into this, and everything that you do, especially on the acting side of things, and the work that goes into it. And I look at it like this: you talk about the Tomicos, the Jolene Hexes. You find a lot of people that are very similar. Like I mentioned to you, and I'll give her a shout out, fellow Canadian LFC prospect Riley Jade. I talked to Riley, she's very much like you. She's very entertaining. She's very funny. She's very passionate. She's really starting to come into her own and really gain that confidence. And also the fact that you two both love Ed the Sock, which I think is hilarious. So, I mean, it's one of the things where as soon as she said that, like I said, we talk about lasting impressions. As soon as she said, I like Ed the Sock, I mean, I'm like, oh, hello, Stephanie Ferreira and her Much Music over here. So, I mean, there's things that gravitate and things that I can relate to of who I talk with. It's all about how you communicate and how you make the moments and memories and the moments and memories yet to be created. It's how you really go into everything, the mindset and everything that goes into your character and your overall being. It's a foundation vibe, man.
And I'm gonna say this as heartfelt and honestly as ever, but I hope that LFC can become one of those championships where it becomes so generational that families, I grew up loving it, and my child, if people are worried about age, whatever the case may be, when they get to a certain point, I hope that they support it and that they like it, they enjoy it, but because of the hard work that goes into it. I mean, lingerie, take out the word, it's still a fighting championship.
Right.
That's the most important part. People like to take away, the championship. They like to take away the fighting aspect because, oh, pretty girls in lingerie. No. It's a fighting championship. That's the point of this. These women are getting in there. They're, they're getting ready. They're going to have to go through this. And instead of people going, it's just pretty girls. No. enough with that. Enough with the pretty girl stuff. Because pretty girls, yeah, we walk like this, whatever the song may be.
All the pretty
Pretty
girls
girls walk like
this.
this, right? But for us, it's not something that's a trend. It's not something that it's gonna come and it's gonna go. Because LFC to me has been here for a very, very long time. And I think it's gonna be here for a very, very long time. And like I said, I'm still waiting for you guys to come up here.
Yeah.
Because obviously I would love to see the fight in person. I would love to see the ladies. I would love to even just heck be a ring girl if I had to just hold the signs, for round one, round two. And I think that's something that ties into the modeling world too. Can you imagine what it would be like for a model in Toronto, let's say as an example? And I'm not necessarily talking about myself, but if it manifests, let it be. Can you imagine how it would feel if you had a model who was a trained fighter where, oh, she's pretty, she looks great in lingerie, and we need a backup fighter. Someone has managed to get sick and we need to put in a new competitor short notice. And they say to this beautiful model, okay, you know what? Do you have that training? Yes. Do you want to go up this person? Yes. And they go home with the championship. What would that do for you? How would that feel for you? Because I can tell you already, if I were to see that happen in real time, whether it's a model I know, someone I've never seen, someone who's been a longtime fan, or someone who's just been fighting for a long time, I would be so freaking excited. I'd be like, this needs to go viral, people.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I mean, I look at it, if you're looking like today, like how Ty Emery, former LFL All-Star, who just becomes like, again, she's done modeling, she's done a lot of lines of work, but this woman trains, she got into bare knuckle boxing, she wins her first bout, she goes viral because she was just so happy that she flashed the crowd, and it turned into like a big thing because she's so very much about body positivity and just being sexy, but also at the same time applying her craft because she's very disciplined. You look at women like that, it's just not only is it awe-inspiring, number two, it's fun, it's entertaining, but number three, she's like, okay, here I am. My name's Ty Emery. I'm a former model. I've done this, I've done that. But yeah, I can also kick your ass and take some names, and I can also possibly break your nose in the process. So, I mean, you have so many layers to it that I think it's wonderful. So I agree. I imagine if a woman like a Ty Emery or any woman who was a model gets in there, has the training and the experience, instead of just looking at it as a model or what have you, no, these two are there training. They can kick booty and they can take some names as well. I look at Trish Stratus. You want to talk about Toronto? I'll look at WWE. We'll go the Trish Stratus route. Trish Stratus, who is in her late 40s, who's almost 50, looks in amazing shape. She has her Stratusfaction yoga. She wrestled Becky Lynch in a steel cage match last year, and it was flipping awesome. Like a 50-year-old woman going off the top of a cage, taking a superplex. It's like, what the hell are you doing? You could just be doing yoga and doing your thing or whatever you do, because she has so many ventures out there and avenues she's doing. But she's like, no, I love professional wrestling. Gosh darn it, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to face one of the next generation's top talents, and I'm going to kick some booty and do it in a steel cage match. Like, I look at a woman like Trish Stratus, who is just absolutely exemplary to what we see with the women nowadays, you know?
And I have to admit, I was one of those people like a long time ago. I didn't believe in that shit. I didn't believe in yoga.
Right.
I didn't believe in women fighting. Like if you would have asked me about 20 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, we have them in wrestling and we all know it's fake and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But now I look back and I'm like, shit, I wasted so much time by not being excited for this, by not investing into this. Because a lot of the time, like I look at Trish Stratus, like even Ronda Rousey, like I used to look at those women. I'm like, damn, like even Danica Patrick, the race car driver. A lot of the times, like, man, these women are in a man's world. It's a men's sport. And we stop that like right down the line. We're like, no more by saying it's a men's sport. Only men should be doing it. Women don't fight. Actually, science has proven that women fight a hell of a lot more than men do, because you guys are good. You guys could get into an argument. You guys buy a beer, buy a Coke, and you guys are good. But ladies, on the other hand, boy, we hold grudges. And we hold all that anger in. And a lot of the time, where do we channel it? We need to channel it. We need to get our aggression out. One of my favorite things, one of my favorite pastimes was the first time I had a punching bag in front of me. And someone just said, go nuts, get that aggression out. And I'm like, I'm not, this isn't me. And they're like, no, get angry. Boy, once I got angry, I was like, boom, 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 how's your knuckles? They hurt a little bit, but there's kind of something, kind of feels good actually, because the pain I was internalizing came out through my fist, and knowing that I didn't hurt anybody in the process, it was soothing. There's something therapeutic about getting your aggression out on, like in the boxing, I don't know how to call it, the boxing
the boxing realm, the
boxing bag.
Boxing bag, yeah.
And you know, I did a shoot recently where they put me, you know, in some 80s outfit, you know, sparring with a punching bag, and it was hilarious. People were like, I didn't know that you could actually throw a punch. And I'm like, sometimes you got to surprise people. And I feel like LFC has done that. I feel like LFC came, surprised a hell of a lot of people, and people are like, this needs to stay. We need the sport. I need the sport more than anything else, because I look at it and it's just incredible to see how far it's come over the years. Because I remember meeting you in 2020.
Yep.
Was it 2019? It was 2020. Yeah. And I remember the first time I sat down and spoke to you, and I'm like, tell me your side of things. What do you think of LFC? And the way you start to talk about them, I felt like a kid at story time, like, just tell me more. Like, tell me more about this great pastime. Wait, it's not a pastime. It's happening now. Yeah. It's today. And my question always and will always be, what can I do to help support it? What can we do so that people have a better understanding of it, have a better understanding of the competitors, understanding their stories, their, you know, their losses, even their interpretations of what it means to each an individual fighter. So I really, really, really have to say something about LFC is, as a woman who's in Canada, I look at the sport and I say, you know what? I'm so proud of them. And I can't wait to see what's next. I can't wait to see the next competitor. I can't wait to see the next generation, what their take is, and what their fighters and what their style is like, and what their mindset could possibly be like. There is so much to look forward to with LFC that I feel like it's constantly redesigning itself. I feel like with you, especially being part of LFC, I feel like it's garnered even more attention because you're not afraid to talk about it. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about it. We shouldn't be ashamed of the sport. The fighters should definitely be proud of everything that they've accomplished, even if they haven't won. The fact that they sign up, they train, they get in there is something to simply applaud and be so proud of, and for us to be supportive of a community.
All right, so I'm going to say this just because we're talking about the first time we spoke, and I'm going to put you over here in a second, but I got to say this right now. I think for me, as I've always used it, and I've used this in the bluntest of terms, I have to say, like, my fucko-meter kind of has expired, because after a while, the fucks go out the window, ladies and gentlemen, because people just are going to and you kind of tune them out. But I've always looked at it much like you stated, and it's very eloquent, it's very truthful. You have to look at it from a stance as this. My mother, who I've always been as a very much a supporter of mine and the woman I love so, so much, I look at it like this: how you treat women and how you really look from the women's side of things in sports. You grow up on women like the Lisa Leslies and the WNBA, like you mentioned, the Danica Patricks, the Trish Stratuses, the Ronda Rouseys, and so many different avenues. I mean, Mia Hamm with what she did in the soccer field. Like, you look at so many women like this and you get to see the athleticism, you get to see the poise, the stature, even a Layla Ali, of what she did for the boxing world. You have to really look at the aesthetics of things and really just also say, hey, instead of looking at it as like a gender or what have you, men, women, people, we're all equal. We all have the ability to do what we want to do as far as the sporting side of things and in general. And I think people are going to shit talk you and shun you for anything that you do. But as long as you have the right mindset and the trajectory, everything goes far. And I say that and I wholeheartedly agree with it. Like the first time I spoke with you, being your multifaceted self, like, I'm going to write, I'm going to do this, I'm going to talk about some sex, I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about that. But you have an eloquent way of putting it. You know what I'm saying? You can write about anything. You can write about just whatever feels, you know, floats your boat or whatever, how you feel. I think you have that voice in your own right that does it, as do most. I think if we all know how to have that voice and, you know, we had to use it, it just sets us up for nothing but a progression and succession. So, I mean, if you have the mindset of progression and succession, it takes you where you need to be. And it also makes you continue to learn. And that right there is the circle of life, number one, but also number two, it's an expansion and growth of one's character and extension of one's human being.
Truth. So true. I mean, with me, especially with the writing, I haven't been writing. I lost my book deal. My book was supposed to come out in May this past year, and it was simply because we didn't have enough writers that signed on. It was a a compilation book.
Combination. Yes.
I couldn't say it. I was tongue tied, and it was really difficult to find out. Something that I had worked so hard on didn't fall through, and I was devastated, and but that trajectory, it sent me onto a different path that I never anticipated coming. Because now with the designing, I'm actually coordinating a lot of shows now. Even if you don't see me on the runway, chances are I'm running somewhere backstage, losing my mind, going, I need a doctor. I need, professional help. I need this. I need that. Someone get her a bottle of water, whatever the case may be. And with every loss, there's sometimes a little light at the end of the tunnel. There's always something to look forward to. And with the writing, I write every day for myself. I write for me, I'll write myself a little love story if I feel like the world has gotten, so dark. It's become so gloomy. And, if I feel like I need a word of positivity, then I'll write myself a love note. Or if I feel like someone could use a kind word, I'll write something for them. Just, hey, Michael Larkin, I'm thinking about you, thinking, hoping everything is going well. And to me, that's poetic. That's poetic justice. You're getting it out there. You're manifesting something, even if it's something small with a little bit of loss. You still don't completely lose that ability. Oh, okay, so I don't have a book here, but who's to say that I'm never going to write again? I'm always going to write. That's what I have within me. Just like sometimes I look at, I've got family members where they played soccer for years, but now they're a football player. So just because something didn't work out in our favor, it doesn't mean it's time to give up, get pissed off with ourselves, get pissed off at the people that said, no, not today. But there's always tomorrow, and there's always an opportunity to be like, you know what? Let's move forward with tomorrow, because there might be something bigger, better. I have to work for it, but there's something there. There's a light at the end of that tunnel.
Okay, I like how you put that. You're making me smile over here because I'm going to equate this again. So, with both of us being very passionate people, as you can tell, as we discuss our stories and our trajectories, ladies and gentlemen, I look at it like this. It's like when I first got to ring announce in 2021, and I met our boy, shout out to Tommy Bell Art, who did an amazing drawing of this one, because you're going to see that drawing in this show, because this one pimped it out with his skills that kills, replace the S, put in the Z. We'll mention Tommy in a second here, because that also goes into what we're talking about.
We also have to tease him too.
Oh yeah, that too. But I look at it. I look at it like this. It's like when I got the opportunity to ring announce in 2021 and 2022, like, it's a first impression thing. Like, I've always said in my life, I wanted to make myself use a voice, not just in podcasting, but I think that was cool to have that, because I'm hyping up a crowd. I want people to feel it. And plus, the time period of it was October 2021. We're coming back slowly but surely from COVID, and people are going, my mindset is not only just to entertain people, because, okay, every bout is important from the opening to the main event, but I'm like, y'all, we're out of COVID here, man. Like, we're back into the mix here. Like, let's have some fun and enjoy ourselves here. So that's another thing I wanted to put into it. But also then the second time, you get more comfortable with it. You get to meet new people and stuff. So there's many different avenues of how you want to project yourself. And I mean, I look at it like Tommy, because Tommy's in the same boat I am with how he loves drawing these women. I love talking to amazing women like this over here and all of it. But Tommy's trajectory is, I love to draw these women, and the boy's got the skills that kills, replace the S, put in the Z, and he knows what he's doing, and he knows the time and the meticulous and the details that he wants to put in the drawing. Like, folks, he did an amazing drawing of Steph over here with her little witchiness and whatnot, and the green and everything. That was badassery. Like, Tommy knows what he wants to do, and now Tommy, in his own right, he has a show on the LFCfights.com, which I help co-host in it, called Sketchy and Funny. People come on the show, and Tommy gets to talk about the drawing, but his muse, his artist, the people get to see him draw. Like a lot of the guests love to come on, talk about their tenure, but they get to see the progression of their drawings, and it's cool. So Tommy has provided himself an own little avenue in his own right, because the man knows it's your artistry. It's how you visualize things, man.
And I think that's also a tribute to LFC, because it's, for me, I look at it from always. Because I mean, I was just a writer. I was writing, I'm like, okay, I don't have an idea in hell what the hell I'm doing. I just know I'm writing. I'm writing about sex and relationships. A little bit more about the sex minus the relationships, because we all know relationships are tricky and not the same and so different, diverse. But when I met you, I was like, okay, so we have the voice, because to me, you'll always be the voice. I associate your face and voice more with LFC than any other individual, even the fighters, I have to admit. And then when I have Tommy, Tommy has been a big influence in my life as well. And I'm sure if he hears this or sees this, he's going to start blushing slightly and just going, oh, Stephanie, you, because that was his notorious line with me. He inspired my children to draw. And, if I can't get my words on paper, it was the drawing, or it was designing, doing something with my hands to really get me through that impact. So for me, when I look at LFC and why it's so special to me, one, it's, these incredible women empowering themselves, empowering each other, getting in there, throwing it down, getting down to business. It doesn't matter if they're standing 10 toes or if they're, one leg up in the air, ready to kick the girl in the face. These women are showing their perseverance. And then the men behind, you guys are showing the support as well. So when I look at LFC, it's a family, it's a community, it's a village. But you also have uplifted so many individuals. And I'm sure if you were to talk to a lot of the fans in LFC, they would all tell you the same thing. Someone in the LFC has managed to inspire, not provoke. Like, I mean this genuinely, because a lot of people will be like, they provoke feelings, they provoke this. You inspire by what they do. The fighters, the voice, the art aspect. There's something that appeals to everybody with LFC. And I think that's why it holds such a special place in my heart.
So I'm going to use a book title, and this also ties into the wrestling front. So The Hardy Boys, one of my favorite books. Jeff and Matt Hardy put out a book back in 2002, 2003. And it's cool because it's the life of them, but I always loved the title. So the title of the book was Exist to Inspire. Exist, the number 2, inspire, because I always love that title, because I think that's what you should do in life. And anything that you do, no matter how minuscule it is, your existence is very important to this world, and who you are, and how you can affect people emotionally, physically, and just in general, how you can evoke emotions, elicit reactions. But the other goal is to inspire, and to inspire people, because not only are you doing it a positively proactive job of it, but you never know what one person's going through. And if you can lift up as opposed to, then you're golden, man.
Oh, yeah. And it kind of ties in with everything. So when you asked me to do this podcast with you, it was right when I was feeling down.
Yes.
And I was like, maybe it's not for me. Today, all I could think of was, I'm feeling a certain way because I've allowed people to put me down. I've allowed this provocation. They provoke you. That's what it is. When people are telling you, you can't do this, you cannot be a part of this with no wrongdoing, that is not an obstacle. It's something that's provoking the reaction. And you have to think positively. If I just simply give up, they've won. You gave up the fight. You didn't even enter the ring. It was like you ceased to exist in that moment. So I thought to myself, you know what? I have a voice. It's time I use it. Just like in the fighting world, for the longest time, women don't belong in fighting. Women were too delicate. We're too vulnerable. It's a men's sport. Instead, no, we will decide for ourselves what we can and can't do. So instead of you taking my voice away, here is my voice. I'm finding it. So yeah, LFC, Mr. Michael Larkin, you guys kind of inspire people to use their voice.
I truly appreciate that. And so do you in your own right. I truly mean that, not just because you're my homie, but also at the same time, just because truth is truth, ma'am. And I will say that you do use your voice in other ways, Miss Dolce, Steph. I've been listening to this doggone song, and I'm going to put this into fruition. Amore, man. I enjoyed it. Like, I mean, as soon as you announced that, not only that, but also just doing prep for this, and also just, I knew we were going to just be shooting the breeze and letting it flow, like In Vogue back in 95. There's the pop culture reference, ladies and gentlemen. But at the same time, like, yo, this is a good song. We got to talk about this, Miss Dolce Steph. I dug it. I like the beat. I like the flow. It was good. It was really good.
So shout out to Groovegate Records and Lady V, who is a vocalist here in Toronto. Groovegate Records is actually out of New York, which is absolutely incredible. I went to New York for Fashion Week for the very first time last September. And I went for Rock the Designer, who is one of my best friends here in Toronto. So to go all the way to New York, I drove there. I was terrified. It was my first time being away from home from my husband, my kids, my dog. And when I got to New York, there was the casting call. I was selected by Rock and another fashion designer. And Lady V had expressed that she wanted to finish her song and had invited the producer to come out. And he came out. He came to my hotel room where, my fashion designer was hanging out with us, TV on. And I was just kind of relaxing. And, she was singing her song. He was guiding her. And then she kind of turned to me and says, how do you say love in Italian, but how would you make it sound romantic? So I kind of looked at her and I'm like, amore, like that. And the two of them just looked at each other, looked at me, and he's like, in the chair. So I'm like, no, I cannot sing a tune. I am very much, if people were to say which Disney character are you, I'd say the Emperor's New Groove, and I'd be Kronk because I'm completely tone deaf. I don't even sound good in the shower. That's how bad.
Kronk, you're going in Emperor's New. All right, okay, now Kronk.
I'm exactly like Kronk, like
yes.
I am Kronk. Okay, so now that you have that little visualization, squeak, 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 squeaking. I'm Kronk. So I can hear Lady V's voice playback. And then whenever there was a break, the last word that she said in English, I would say in Italian. And next thing I know, he's like, no, your voice is not going on the track. And I'm like, oh, good, delete it. So no one ever has to hear it. Within about 10 minutes, I had a song. And I sat there going, oh, this is new, because I did vocals as a teenager in school. I passed, but I was like, I can never sing. But, you go with vocal coaches and finding the right team. And I've had friends like DT the Artist, 40, J Legends, where they inspire. There are a few times that they'll start singing and then they look at me and they're like, finish the lyric. And next thing you know, I'm belting out a tune with them. And it's really about the team. So being in New York, being for Fashion Week for the first time up there, writing my very first song, getting a credit, being played on the radio in the States was so surreal. Having a music video. I'm not in it. However, there's a company out in Montreal that did the music video for us. They really matched, the model aesthetic, because it was very much a love note for the modeling world, because I was there for fashion. But everybody knows for a fashion show, you need music. You need something that's going to uplift, something that people can find, a little bit of a beat to, that they can move to, express themselves freely. So when I wrote that song, it became a testament and a love story, a love note for the modeling world.
I have to say, Miss Amore, I do have to put it to the forefront. Not only did I like it just because of I look at music like this, and we're pop culture nerds here, I'll say it. Not only just the lyricism side of things, the beat and everything, it's the overall flow that goes into it. And if it's something you can vibe to and something that you can grasp, I like it. Even just the use of one word, the beat, it's a nice little flow and I could dig it. It's something I could listen to on repeat. But also at the same time, too, I think the art form going into it, no matter how, all right, I'll put it to you like this. Christopher, Crossing Michael McDonald. Freaking Michael McDonald had one flipping word on that song for Ride Like the Wind. I got such a long way to go. Such a long way to go. Like, that's all he flipping says in the doggone song. But y'all remember, such a long way to go. Like, it's that type of things that go to it. Even the smallest things are very memorable. It's like back in the late 90s and 2000s when the Thunderpuss remix was around, and then here's flipping Enrique Iglesias doing Be With You. Then all of a sudden I got to be like the little goes into it, like that little aesthetic goes into it. You know what I'm saying? You can have a Thunderpuss remix. You can say one word. You can do whatever. It flows. And if it flows, it goes. To put in the bluntest and rhyming of terms, if it flows, it goes.
Exactly. And it was such a fun experience because I'll never forget when I actually heard the finished product, because he's like, yeah, your song is at mastering. And I'm like, hey, Google, what is mastering? Because like I said, I didn't have the slightest idea. But then it also came with them giving me a lot of information. It was a lot of them arming me with what I needed to know. What happens if your song gets played on the radio? How do you get paid? How do you collect? Video rights, and even the instruments. Every instrument that you hear on that track is actually Groovegate Records, one of the head executive producers, playing each and every individual instrument. So everything that you hear, it's not a sample from someone else's song. It's actually what he created for my words. Because it's me just saying stasera, which is tonight, amore, love. And of course, when I think of it, the song is meant for everybody. Something about the modeling world, especially fashion, it's not supposed to discriminate. It's supposed to be for everybody. And I feel like a lot of the time, like LFC, before LFC, before it was Lingerie Fighting Championship, like I said, everything was not garnered. It wasn't open for everybody. It was for one demographic and one demographic only. And we've moved away from it completely now, where we've made it open to everybody to enjoy. I hope when people hear my song, they're like, okay, yeah, it's good. Although half the time all I can think of is, hey guys, look at this. I bought something as a joke. I'm going to show you.
Okay.
Like my girlfriend at work will say to me, someone needs to play music. We're going nuts. And then I'm like, oh, look, guys, a Christmas tree ornament. Right?
Okay.
It's on my Christmas tree. Oh, that actually went to the beat that I was doing. But little things like that, when we think about we think about where we heard it from, and half the time we're like, I don't remember, but it's so memorable that a lot of us, like you did it too. You did it first. It stays with us. And if my words stay with somebody and they're like, I kind of like that feeling. I kind of like that feeling of love, even if it's, love at first sight. It's the love of finding a new sport that whole, I really like the Lingerie Fighting Championship. Holy crap. Like, this is my thing. Like, how come no one told me about it? Why didn't I share in on this before? If someone gets excited over it, we should all be excited over it. Like, let's enjoy life and music again, because music goes hand in hand with fashion. Fighters come out with music all the time. So it all kind of goes hand in hand if you think about it.
Well, absolutely. I'll tell you my LFC experience after I mention this, because it goes to your music point and how things are very memorable. I remember as a kid growing up on Long Island, 106.1 BLI was the local radio station. They used to have the top 10 countdown. And I'll take it back to probably 98, 99, since this ties into I remember it was the days of Europop, ladies and gentlemen, and Amber from Germany had a song back in the day, was, the way I feel is sexual when you're next to me, like that dee-da-dee, dee-da-dee-da, dee-da-dee, dee-da-dee, dee-da-dee-da, dee-da, like that whole thing, like that was a vibe. Like a lot of people remember that. Like that is so memorable because it was a club mix, but also at the same time, like there's more to it. It's a great beat. She has a beautiful voice, but you remember that type of stuff because it was so popular. Like nowadays, kids would be like, "That's kind of cringe." I'm like, you can shut the hell up and go off. But at the same, yeah, like you don't even know what it means. Just shut up. You go listen to your mumble rap and go that way. So what we're saying is, Not that music back in the day was better than what it is now, but a lot of stuff nowadays isn't as timeless as like our tracks that we're talking about, because in today's music society, it's all on to the next. Like you can have something hot one week and then it's on to the next. Stuff like an Amber, stuff like the Europop we're talking about. And I'll mention the Canadian because the Canadian's on here. Soul Decision, and people will always talk about Faded. Faded, you can't escape because it's good. Snow, when he's doing Informer and everybody wants to be like you, people will talk about it. Ricky J, maybe not so much. But at the end of the day, there's still a lot of stuff that goes into it. And
we're good.
I know. Well, you and your Ricky J, no means no. But no, the point being is, whether it doesn't matter where you're from, the international, Canadian, America, what have you, if you're an artist and your intent is to put out a doggone good song, whether it's a one-hit wonder, whether you have more hits, you have to know that what you're going to do is not only art, but you're going to do something that's timeless. If you're doing something that's timeless, it stands out. And no matter what age group, you can relate to it.
I think that's the most important thing. For me, it's a lot because I look at right now, it's all content. It's all fast consumption. You watch it today, you forget about it tomorrow. You're not even thinking about it. You won't give it a second thought. There's no milestone attached. I remember music, whether it was Soul Decision. I remember that song playing in my grade 8 dances and us going, kind of faded, but I feel all right. And I mean, we didn't dance like the way kids do nowadays. You know, there's no twerking because obviously we got in trouble as soon as we tried to dance like that. But, you know, we kind of, you know, Carlton, if you will, from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But that was stuff that it was our culture. It was stuff that we were growing up with because we were exposed to it left, right, and center. I mean, I have my cell phone. Half the time I'll look at content, I'll hear a song, and I'm like, the only time I can remember a song now is if I hear it on TikTok. Or if, you know, it's on a reel on Instagram, but everybody else is using it. But there's no sentimental value to the music. And that's where I have a hard time. With my friends like DT the artist, he has a song called Flashing Lights. We did his music video, and as soon as it's released, I'll share it with you, obviously. It's about a model that he knows, a good friend of his. However, he performed it for us back in February in New York because he came out with us, and it was the same night that Usher was doing the Super Bowl. And he sang Flashing Lights, and when I came out, he said, Stephanie, you look amazing. He changed the lyric and the song. And as I was walking, I almost fell face first because I was like, you made that for me. My trip to New York was no longer like, I'm here for New York Fashion Week. It was, wow, DT the artist put my name in a song. Even if it doesn't stick, that song became so sentimental to me because he put me part of that song for that one time. And it stuck with me. And a lot of the times it's these small little things, like even No Means No. That was our anthem growing up as teenagers. Like, oh, hey, girl, you look fine. Can I have your phone number? No means no. But now we have Megan Trainor where it's, my name is no, my sign is no. But it's not as fun as, hey, girl, I can do it for a minute, girl. No means
no.
Like it burns a little bit more. Like it feels like my Kelso from that 70s show, burn. Just because like it adds that little like just burn. And I feel like going back to LFC, I feel like the more that people are like, oh, you know, women shouldn't be doing this type of fighting, they shouldn't be wearing lingerie, I think the more these women come out and they apply, they register, they train, your no means nothing to me, because if they want me and they say yes to me, it doesn't matter what you say, I'm in.
Hell to the yes. And we are happy that you were all in and that you were doing the damn thing with your career and with this brand. And Steph, I will say this before we do close this out, because I want to go back onto your point about TikTok, and I'll tell you how my experience with LFC, and then we'll come back into that final part. But I will say this to you, because I'm going to put the overture here. You're always welcome on with me and Tommy Bell. And you and I have to do that pop culture show outside of the LFC auspices, which we will get done because, like I said, the three of us and our pop culture zaniness, you want to put the three of us on a show and just be unhinged. That'll be a show for all y'all to listen to. So that'll definitely come into fruition. But like
I'm already thinking about it.
Oh yeah,
Tommy.
But with the LFC podcast, you're always welcome on. I'm glad that after, oh my goodness, I think the last time we did this was 2 years, but 2 years, never late, never, you know what I'm saying? Never late than better. You know what I'm saying? Never better than to be late. But at the end of the day, better late than never, so to speak, is what I was trying to say there. So thank you. Thank you as always.
Thanks for having me. It means so much.
It does, and I appreciate you. You mean so much as well. So, all right, we're going to put up to the final parts here. So, you mentioned TikTok, and I'm glad you put that into the fruition, and also the fact that I equated to how he mentioned you in your song and how that was special to you. I'll make a pop culture reference. Look at when Stephanie Tanner got Tommy Page, God rest his soul, to sing at her birthday that "Oh Stephanie" back in the day. For those that remember that episode of Full House. All right, you see, I can see the smile on the left here. Like, it may be the simplest of things, but like when Stephanie Tanner got flipping Tommy Page to sing at her freaking birthday, that was like friggin' cloud nine for Stephanie Tanner, okay?
Yeah, that was for me. That wasn't for Stephanie Tanner. That was for me, people. Sorry.
Jody Sweetin, God. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mean to curse, but fuck right off, Jody Sweetin. That was for me, God damn it. And Stephanie Tanner, how rude. How rude, God damn it, how rude. Anyway, I digress. I look at the TikTok front, back to your point. Like, I hate the fact that we're learning more songs now from TikTok. Like, here's the thing. Earth, Wind, and Fire. When you think of Earth, Wind, and Fire, Let's Groove Tonight, Share the Spice of Life. One of the most iconic songs. And they turned it into a damn TikTok dance. And I remember I got so pissed because I remember as a kid, my mom introduced me to Earth, Wind, and Fire. And I love Let's Groove. I love Shining Star, no matter who you are, shining bright to see what you could truly be. Like, I love these songs. And then these damn TikTokers are putting into a damn dance, and I'm like, y'all weren't even born when this came out, and what the hell are you doing turning this into like a dance thing for TikTok? And then they did it with Puff Daddy, and I know this is bad to talk about who I'm mentioning here, but when they did fucking Puff Daddy, Faith Evans, and 112, I'll Be Missing You.
It was Sting. It was Sting, people. It was the police.
Every breath you take. But the problem with the TikTokers is the significance of that song is he was talking about his boy, the Notorious B.I.G., a man who legit got shot. You know what I'm saying? And you're doing a dance challenge to this. I'm like, this is not a happy song. What are you doing? Like, I know exactly they're doing this, and I'm like, this is not a happy time. This is not a happy time.
Oh, my friend was just gunned down, but I think we can monetize off of him. And I think that's why I get really flustered with TikTok. I mean, TikTok had its advantages. They were big sports supporters. TikTok was part of the NHL, especially the Toronto Maple Leafs. We had a commercial with LG Canada and the Toronto Maple Leafs and Toronto Raptors using TikTok. And they used 30 seconds of a TikTok. And it was just me banging my hockey stick because, COVID and everything like that. But when I see TikTok just taking out the sentiment and what something truly means, especially some songs, and it's just like a little dance craze and people are kind of trying to monetize, it takes away from it so much.
It reminds me of, okay, and I'll mention this sample. So there was this rapper, Little Mosley, who had that song Blueberry Faygo that everybody was using on TikTok. And I'm like, the song that samples it is Johnny Gill's My, which is a classic slow jam from the 90s. And like Johnny Gill, New Edition, Johnny Gill, and y'all are turning into this with this Little Mosley who's got his grills and he looks like a jackass. And we're doing Blueberry, Blueberry Faygo. And I'm like, this is, I hate TikTok. And like, I legit, like, I hate TikTok just because of what they're doing there with the songs and stuff. I hated how they capitalized that. And then flipping friggin' R. Kelly resurfaced because people were doing the dance challenge to a song of his called Leg Shakin', which I didn't even know was a damn R. Kelly song, but apparently it's a song from like 10 years ago and they're doing a challenge and most of these people don't even know that it's an R. Kelly song. And I'm like, what?
You know what? I would pay any money for people to do the Macarena challenge again because half the people didn't know how to do the dance. Yes. I invite people to do the Carlton dance, like dances that were hysterical in the day. Or better yet, why don't they try dancing to music videos like She's a Maniac?
Yes.
Where like try and keep your energy up doing that. You are going to be going through a stress test, my friends, keeping up with some of those dance moves.
God, freaking.
Or even Boney M.
Okay.
Remember Rasputin, the
Yes.
gentleman dancing?
Yes.
Let's see how many of these kids can keep up with those dance moves.
Oh God, I'll even friggin' take "Oh Mickey, You're So Fine, You So Fine, You Blow My Mind." Hey Mickey. I'll even flip and take the Scat Man talking about I'll take the flippin' scat man, or jump, jive, and wail, friggin' Brian Set's orchestra. Yep. Oh,
now you're mentioning some classics, eh? We got to be careful with this. I thought we said we were closing out the show instead.
Hey man, you opened up Pandora's box, but no.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. So, okay. All good.
Actually, no, you started it because you said Stephanie Tanner.
Hey man, I'm just saying, like Tommy Page, you had your Tommy Page moment.
I did. Like I said, that song was for me. Stephanie Tanner, who? No, that was for me.
So, last thing I will say about LFC, because we talk about our love and how we get into it. I've always said this, like the fact of the matter with LFC, like the first time I think I saw it, I actually interviewed a wrestler by the name of Allie Parker, who was an LFC fighter, Allie Baby Doll Parks. And the story that always inspired me and I always loved about LFC. So her brother needed a kidney, and one of her fights, like you see the scar, she gave her brother a kidney like right before like she had to go do an LFC fight, and that always touched me. And I've always just thought, like, not only was she again beautiful internally and externally, but I thought that was very, that was very like touching, and I loved the story, and I got to find out about her and many of these girls. It's everybody that you get to really see and interact with, from the people who are the OGs to the new crop of talent that we have now, who are just doing the damn thing and kicking it as they all are. So I think stuff like that, I think it's the story you tell me, and number two, just also seeing the craftsmanship being done. So like that was really one of the things like that gravitated me towards LFC, to do those interviews and incorporate them outside of the LFC auspices to where I am now. So I think it's all about the tie-ins and connections, and really also, like we mentioned, the representation of your presentation. So that was always my love, just to hear the stories and then just also see the product within itself.
Keep on going, because we need more of them.
Thank you. I truly do appreciate that. And we need more of you, you son of a gun, Miss Stephanie Ferreira.
Oh, there will be a lot more. I've got an upcoming show December 7th. I am walking for Evangeline Rose Swim. I'm actually coordinating that runway show, so I'm super excited. So there will be a lot more content coming out.
I always love to ask this final question before we plug the socials. Being someone who's adapted and has such a knowledge and vast knowledge that you have, what would be your pearls of wisdom, your pow, if you will, that really you would give to a lot of the up-and-comers who are looking to get into modeling or just really do what you've done and what you've experienced? What advice would you give to the ladies, man?
Actually, ladies, gentlemen, anyone who's not sure of who they are, take your time. You will figure out who you are in no time. Love yourself first and foremost. Be proud and respect yourself first and foremost, I will say. Anything that you want, you have to work for. Work hard at it. Apply. Do your research. If something doesn't feel right, do even more research. Do pros and cons. And most importantly, when you get the work done, make sure that you congratulate yourself. And even if you feel like there's a loss, if you feel like something's not for you, keep going with it. Because at the end of the day, no one can be an athlete with only one day of trying something. Things you have to work on everything. And even if someone says no today, chances are it could be a yes tomorrow. So just keep applying yourself, put that work in.
Beautifully and eloquently said, Miss Ferreira. And where can we follow you on Twitter, Instagram, and the forefront to check all your amazing events and you as a whole? Where can we follow you, man?
So on Twitter, it's at Leaf Scroll Staff. Instagram, depending on what you want to see, it's at Leaf Scroll Staff as well. Or if you want to see my new designs, it's at Antonella Florals. And for my music, it's Original Dolce Staff.
Hell yes. All right. Now, Instagram and all the links will be in there to check out Miss Ferreira over here. Great follow. Showcases imagery and showcases a day in the life of your quirkiness, your awesomeness, and just your overall spontaneity. And I mean that in the utmost sincerity and respect. And if y'all want to check out LFC and this fine podcast, go to lfcfights.com, VIP section. Yo, VIP, Ice Baby. We cold. And you can check out this podcast, Tommy Bellard, Sketchy and Funny, and all the recent LFC ongoings and do's and don'ts, mostly do's, because who doesn't want to see LFC? You know you do. Don't act like you don't know. LFC 41 just came aboard, a lingerie fight club from the FSW Arena Future Stars of Wrestling, where Bella Inc. became the new LFC champion. So rock it and rock out hard for the VIP section. Check out yours truly here, SM Show on MCL92, Larkin_92, M Larkin MB Instagram, and of course, Mike Larkin92. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and let's keep on keeping on. Stephanie Ferreira, as I always say with the show, life is an art form. We're all applying our crafts. Continue to apply your craft in amazing fashion, as always, as the title of this show is. Beauty, strength, and dominance, 3 key elements that make women the work of art that they are. And Stephanie Ferreira, Leafs girl, Steph, Leafs, Toronto Maple Leafs. What's that all about? I include you in those sentiments. Thank you so much for your time.
Come talk to me. I love the way you're on to me. Looking at you, looking like you're wondering if we're here for the same reason. And now that you wanna lay in the sun, getting love drunk, sticking like honey. Yeah, I bet you're here for some fun with that someone, feeling that something. If you're looking for a good time, honey, I'm right here. If you're looking for a good night, good vibes, honey, I'm right here. And I'm waiting for you. And I love you in your summer skin. Looking at you, looking like you're into it. 'Cause we're here for the same reason. Yeah, I just wanna lay in the sun, getting love drunk, sticking like honey. Yeah, 'cause I'm just here for some fun with that someone, feeling that something. That's something. If you're looking for a good time, honey, I'm right here.